the German goalkeeper Robert Enke tragically committed suicide. Let me welcome Susannah Strong into the conversation. She is the author of the Footballer's Guidebook, a publication that has been released and given to footballers in relation with the PFA, the Professional Footballers Association in this country. Just tell us a little bit about your experiences, Susannah.
Well, as far as the Footballer's Guidebook came out, with one of the most difficult things, it's just interesting hearing the previous people talking and what they were saying, because one of the hardest things that we found about researching and writing the book was that it was really, really difficult to get any footballer to talk to us about mental health and about some of the problems that have just been discussed now. So, I mean, the very famous cases, you know, there's Stan Collymore, there's Paul Gascoigne, there are a few names, but by and large it was very, very hard to get people to come out and talk. And then we began to realise just how much mental health, you know, does come into play in football, but how difficult it is for people to recognise it and also to seek help for it.
Susannah, you know, it's really interesting because when I heard of the news today, the first thing I thought about was Dave Clement, who used to play for QPR, because I played for QPR a little way after. Dave, I think, died in 1982. And I thought, why hasn't anything been done since then? Yeah. What was the trigger for you getting this guidebook together? Well,
I think the trigger was exactly the fact that we knew that there were a number of cases, I mean, really, you know, big names, and suddenly the talk wasn't of football, it was about all the other stuff that was in the media, you know, the sort of the gambling, drink stories, drug stories, whatever, you know, linked to various big names in football. And I think there was a realisation that there were a lot of, you know, not just high profile, but, you know, players, you know, in all the different, you know, sort of echelons of football who were having problems, but there was no, you know, no sort of mechanism, no way for them to be able to speak out. And also there's a huge amount of stigma and taboo around mental health. And it struck me when I started doing the research for the book, it's extraordinary sport where there's all the training and you get people to the most sort of absolute physical perfection, you know, and yet there's no attention paid whatsoever to sort of to the mental health of footballers, and they have nowhere to go, you know, when the pressure gets too much, when, as you were talking before about, you know, retirement and how that can affect players. I think when you come into the game, and it's all young players have, isn't it? It's in that you train all the time, you're with football, you talk football all the time, and so suddenly when things start going wrong, there is no, you have nowhere to go. You possibly don't even recognise it when things start to go awry. You might drink more, you might gamble. There are various, you know, outlets that players have. But I just think it's very, very hard for players to know where to go and who to turn to when things, you know, when they start feeling rough.
Yeah, Ronnie Reng, who wrote the book about Robert Enke and his battle against depression, talked about an achievement-oriented society in football, and that's what we're going to be talking about. Does football do enough to help its own? In just a couple of minutes here on Sports World, have your say.